Louis Vuitton Imagination. This is a full review of Imagination. It's been a while since I've done a full review of Imagination, and I wanted to see really if my thoughts had changed. So we're going to go through this fragrance together and find out if I still love it as much as I did last year. So let's spray it on and go through the notes together. Every time I smell Imagination, it puts me in a good mood. It makes you think of a summertime. It makes you think of a happy place. It makes you think of a relaxing holiday. It just has this amazing transportive effect. Now, Imagination for me opens up with these beautiful, realistic citrus notes. I don't know if it's like, a mixture of lemon, oranges, grapefruit. It sort of smells like a mixture of really realistic, almost zesty citrus notes. Like if you peeled a lemon and you smelt the zest, it almost has a smell like that. But for me, the most interesting part of Imagination, especially in the kind of opening, so when you first try it on, the first sort of 5 minutes or so, it's a blend of citruses and spices of cinnamon and ginger, mainly cinnamon I pick up, and it blends so well with those citrus notes, and it gives it this almost warming feeling. Although it's a bright citrus fragrance, it almost has this warm spice to it, which I find really interesting, and I haven't smelt a combination like this in other fragrances. Now, also you get neroli, you get this kind of clean, almost white floral-like smell. So this definitely has neroli in there just to add a bit of cleanliness to this. But mostly it focuses on these really bright citrus notes. There might be a touch of green notes in here as well. And in the base notes, it's supposed to have this black tea note. Now, I don't know if I'm smelling exactly black tea when I smell this. It's not a note I could particularly pick out, but the overall composition of Imagination is just so fresh, energetic, and vibrant. Now, I always thought that Imagination is like what Creed Aventus was back in like 2010, 2012. When Creed Aventus was going through its stage of popularity where everybody was wearing it because so many people commented on how they smell. Because when Creed Aventus first came out, it was one of the first fragrances in its kind that smelt like that for men. And a lot of people received really positive feedback from people when they wore Creed Aventus back in 2010 to 2015, let's say. I wasn't into fragrances back then, so my journey in this started kind of much later when Aventus was already been out for a very long time and it'd already been reformulated many times. So for me, Imagination is like what I imagine Creed Aventus users back in 2010 would have experienced, because it's this kind of new style of citrus aromatic fragrances. Because really, if you think about it, there isn't many fragrances that are comparable to Imagination that are already on the market, apart from the dupe fragrances, which we're going to touch on a bit later in the video. But apart from that, there's nothing really that I've tried at least that is comparable, that has this beautiful citruses with these warming spices, and that also has this excellent performance to match. So versatility, when is the best time to wear it? You can pretty much wear this anywhere you want. There is not any situation where this wouldn't suit. Now, typically, these fresh, summery citrus fragrances are great for the warmer weather, of course, and Imagination really shines in the warmer weather. But sometimes I love to wear this in the winter. If you wake up on like a Monday morning and it's cold, it's raining, it has a miserable feeling outside. It feels really gloomy. That's the kind of weather we're going to get to soon. But I love wearing Imagination sometimes on those mornings because it does have this transportive effect. It does have this good mood feeling. It just puts you in a great mood for the rest of the day. Also, my girlfriend and people around me love Imagination, so it's a fragrance that I would wear to any situation if I wanted to smell good. And because of the performance, it is a fragrance that I know people will be able to smell, and it's not a fragrance I need to worry about reapplying because the performance is good. So that brings us on to the performance. Now, for a fresh fragrance in this category, I think it's really good. It has really strong performance. It's not anything crazy. It's not going to be anything like Mega Mare by Auto Parisi. It's nothing that's too beastly, and nothing that's really going to bother anyone, even if you spray 10 sprays. But it has excellent performance for this type of fragrance, and in this fresh citrus summery category, there isn't another fragrance I could give you that has better performance. Remember, you can buy samples of Louis Vuitton Imagination and almost 1,000 other fragrances from visionaryfragrances.com in the EU and from the UK and in the EU. Now, are there any alternatives to Imagination? I promised that we'd get to this. So yes, there are some alternatives, expensive and also cheaper. So the expensive fragrances I would put on the same level as this. They don't necessarily smell the same. One of them is AQUA Media Cologne Forte by MFK. I've done a video comparing that already with Imagination that is on my channel. Another one would be ROJA Burlington 1819. It's not a fragrance that it smells exactly the same, but it's a beautiful citrusy fragrance in the opening particularly, then it turns sweet and boozy. But this is an incredible fragrance and really, really amazing ingredients that we're using here because it smells brilliant. And lastly, a couple of dupe fragrances, which we are going to do in a separate video. ZARA Sunrise on the Red Sand Dunes. This is a fragrance that is similar to Imagination and Afternoon Swim, but I'll do a full review comparing these two on my next video. Also, another fragrance I'm going to include in that next video is this new one from Orientica. This is Azure Fantasy. I've only just got this in, but I've worn it a couple of times and it has a lot of similarities to Imagination and excellent performance. But again, we're going to touch on this in the next video. So let's talk about the price and my final thoughts. The price is very high for any kind of type of fragrance, really. You're looking at a Louis Vuitton fragrance. Louis Vuitton are one of the most expensive and exclusive fashion brands in the world, so they were never going to release fragrances that were at the 50, 60 to £100 mark. I don't think they were ever going to do that. All of their fragrances are going to be expensive. Some of them are worth it, some of them I don't think maybe are as worth it as much. Imagination for me really sits at the top of their fragrance offerings. It's the pinnacle of their fragrances. I think it's wonderful. I don't think there's any fragrance that really compares to it. I wouldn't get rid of it at all. I would never get rid of Imagination. If I had to get rid of all of my fragrances, I think Imagination would be in the top 3 for sure. I think it's for me it's one of the best signature scents that I've got, and it's a fragrance that I just fall back to every time I want to wear something that smells amazing and has good performance. So I don't think my thoughts have changed that much, really. I still love it just as much as I did when I first tried it, if not more, because I've got now more memories associated to it, which I think is one of the best things about fragrances, you know. It is the memories that you can create with them, especially when you wear fragrances to certain situations and you wear them as part of your life. So if you have like a 6-month period where you wear only 1 or 2 fragrances, you create so many memories with those fragrances, and your sense of smell is so powerful that it really resonates with your brain. You know, you might smell something that would remind you of a memory 10 to 20 years ago. And that is why the kind of sense of smell is so powerful. And that's why fragrances to me are amazing, because there are so many times where you wear a fragrance on a certain situation and then that memory is kind of bottled in that fragrance. It's quite a weird but also magical occurrence. But Imagination for me has a lot of memories because I've worn it on so many occasions, and I think it's fantastic. Is it worth the money? I don't know really, because it's hard to say. If you have the money to buy, if you have over £250 or whatever to spend on a fragrance, then yes, it's worth it. If you don't have that income and don't have enough money and don't have that kind of money to spend, it's not worth it. Then it's not really worth buying fragrances with a bank loan or a credit card and getting into debt. It's just not worth it, no matter how good the fragrance is. For me, Imagination is basically a 10 out of 10. I don't know how you could beat it. I think it's fantastic, and I'm always going to have it in my collection. I hope you enjoyed this review. Let me know, what are your thoughts of Imagination, and I'll see you soon.